I never thought my brother Kyle's 30th birthday would be the day that changed my life forever. Our family always treated him like royalty while I remained the afterthought, the disappointment, the one who could never measure up. That day at our lake house, I fell 15 feet from the boathouse roof after Kyle's latest prank. As I lay there, unable to feel my legs, my father stood over me shouting, "Walk it off! Stop being a baby!" My brother stood smirking while Mom accused me of ruining his special day. Before I tell you how a birthday party left me fighting for my future, let me know where you're watching from in the comments below. Hit subscribe if you've ever had to prove your pain was real when no one believed you. The morning of Kyle's birthday started like many family gatherings before it, with me reluctantly driving to our family lake house. I almost called to cancel, claiming a work emergency at my architectural engineering firm, but I knew that would just give them more ammunition against me. 28 years of being the family scapegoat had taught me that showing up and keeping quiet was the path of least resistance. Our parents had spared no expense for their golden child celebration. A catering tent stood on the expansive lawn. Professional decorators were arranging elaborate balloon arches, and a small stage was being set up for the live band my father had hired. When I arrived, my mother Susan barely acknowledged me with a distracted wave before returning to her animated conversation with the party planner. "Drew, you finally made it," Kyle called out, clapping me on the shoulder with unnecessary force. At 30, my brother still had the same predatory smile he'd worn throughout our childhood. "I was starting to think you'd bail." "I said I'd be here," I replied, trying to keep things cordial. Despite everything, part of me still desperately wanted their approval. Kyle handed me a beer. "Great, because I need your help setting up something on the boathouse roof. Dad wants string lights around the entire perimeter before guests arrive." I hesitated. Kyle's requests for help had a long history of ending badly for me. Like the time he asked me to help move his furniture in high school, only to have a bookcase accidentally fall on my foot, fracturing 3 toes. Or when he needed assistance checking his car's oil in college and somehow the hood slammed down on my hand. "Can't you get someone else?" I asked. "Everyone's busy, and you're good with heights, Mr. Architect," he said with that familiar manipulative tone. "Unless you want to explain to Mom why the boathouse won't be properly decorated." The familiar weight of obligation settled over me. I followed him down to the dock, where a tall aluminum ladder was propped against the boathouse. For the next hour, I worked on the roof, meticulously stringing lights, while Kyle handed up supplies and offered suggestions from below. When I finished, I moved toward the ladder. "Looks good," Kyle called up. "I need to check on something. Just come down when you're ready." That should have been my warning, but years of conditioning had dulled my instincts. I started my descent carefully. I was about halfway down when I felt the rung beneath my foot shift unnaturally. Before I could react, it gave way completely, sending me tumbling backward. Time seemed to slow as I felt my arms windmilling uselessly. I had just enough time to see Kyle watching from behind a tree before I hit the concrete dock with a sickening impact. The pain was instantaneous and blinding, radiating through my back and hips. Then came something far more terrifying: nothing. Below my waist, I couldn't feel anything at all. "Kyle," I gasped, panic rising in my throat. "I can't feel my legs. Something's wrong." My brother approached, his expression shifting from satisfaction to a practiced concern as others began to notice the commotion. "Dad," he called out. Drew fell off the ladder. My father appeared, irritation evident in his clenched jaw. "What now, Drew? We've got guests arriving in an hour." "I can't move my legs," I said, my voice shaking. "I think something's seriously wrong." Dad's face darkened. "Walk it off. Stop being a baby," he barked, looking around to ensure none of the catering staff was paying too much attention. "Every time, Drew, every single family event, you find a way to make it about you." My mother rushed over her carefully applied makeup, unable to hide her annoyance. "What happened now?" she demanded, not bothering to kneel down or check if I was okay. "He fell off the ladder," Kyle explained, his voice dripping with fake concern. "Probably wasn't being careful." "I can't move my legs," I repeated desperately. "I need an ambulance." Mom's face contorted with anger. "Are you serious right now? On your brother's birthday? Can't you just once think about someone besides yourself?" Kyle stood behind them, a smirk playing at the corners of his mouth. When our parents turned away briefly, he leaned down and whispered, "Oops. Guess those old ladder rungs weren't as solid as they looked." The party preparations continued around me as I lay there on the concrete. Caterers stepped carefully around my body, casting concerned glances but unwilling to interfere in what appeared to be a family matter. Dad instructed two of Kyle's friends to help Drew to a lounger so I wouldn't be in the way. Their attempt to move me sent such excruciating pain through my spine that I screamed, causing several nearby workers to stop and stare. "He's fine," my mother announced loudly. "Just being dramatic as usual." My 12-year-old cousin Mia was the only one who seemed genuinely worried. While the adults returned to their party preparations, she knelt beside me, her small face pinched with concern. "Are you really hurt, Drew?" she whispered. I nodded, tears of pain and humiliation streaming down my face. "I can't feel my legs, Mia. Something's really wrong." She looked around furtively, then pulled out her phone. "I'm calling 911, she said resolutely. "My mom says we always call if someone can't move after a fall." 20 minutes later, as guests began to arrive, an ambulance pulled up to the lake house. My parents' faces registered identical expressions of embarrassed fury as paramedics made their way through the party decorations toward me. The female paramedic, Sarah, knelt beside me immediately, her practiced hands carefully checking my vitals. "Can you tell me what happened?" she asked calmly. "He fell off a ladder," Kyle interjected before I could speak. "He's always been clumsy. Probably had a few too many beers, too." Sarah ignored him, focusing entirely on me. "Can you feel this?" she asked, running something along the bottom of my foot. When I shook my head, her expression changed subtly. "We need a backboard and collar," she called to her partner, then more quietly into her radio, requesting police backup. "Potential spinal injury with concerning circumstances." My father stepped forward aggressively. "Police? What the hell do we need police for? This is a family gathering, and my son just had a minor fall." Sarah stood her ground. "Sir, this is standard protocol for injuries of this nature. Please step back and give us room to work." As they stabilized my neck and carefully transferred me to a backboard, I caught one last glimpse of my family. My father was arguing with another paramedic. My mother was apologizing to guests for the disruption, and Kyle was watching with an unreadable expression. Then the pain and shock overtook me, and everything faded to black. I awoke to the rhythmic beeping of hospital monitors and the sterile smell of antiseptic. My first conscious thought was confusion about why I couldn't feel the lower half of my body. Then the memories came flooding back: the ladder, the fall, my family's reactions. "Ah, Mr. Anderson, you're awake." A woman in a white coat approached my bedside, clipboard in hand. "I'm Dr. Patel, the trauma specialist assigned to your case." My legs, I managed to croak. "I can't feel them." Dr. Patel's expression was compassionate but serious. "You've sustained a significant injury, Mr. Anderson. The initial MRI shows a fracture of your L1 vertebra with compression of the spinal cord. We've scheduled emergency surgery for this evening to relieve the pressure and stabilize the fracture. Will I couldn't finish the question, terror closing my throat. "Will you walk again, doctor?" Patel completed gently. "It's too early to give definitive answers. The injury is classified as incomplete, which means there's still some nerve connectivity. That's a positive sign. But I want to be honest with you. Recovery will be lengthy and challenging with an uncertain outcome." I tried to process this information, feeling as though I was floating outside my body. "My family," I finally said. "Do they know we've been trying to reach them?" a new voice said. A woman in professional attire entered the room. "I'm Lisa Chen, the hospital social worker. Your emergency contacts haven't responded to our calls." Of course they hadn't. They were busy with Kyle's birthday party, and my inconvenient injury was ruining their plans. The realization stung worse than I expected, despite a lifetime of similar treatment. "There's someone else who would like to speak with you," Lisa continued, gesturing toward the door where a man in plain clothes was waiting. "Detective Matthews, Boston PD," he introduced himself, showing me his badge. "I'd like to ask you a few questions about the circumstances of your fall, if you feel up to it." My heart rate spiked, registering on the monitor beside me. "Police? Why are police involved?" Standard procedure for injuries of this nature, he explained, though his expression suggested there was more to it. The responding paramedic noted some concerning elements in her report. I thought about Kyle's smirk, the whispered oops, the years of similar accidents that my family had always dismissed. A lifetime of conditioning made me hesitate. It was just an accident, I found myself saying. The latter was old. Detective Matthews studied me carefully. According to the paramedic, your family members were unusually dismissive of a clearly serious injury, and we have some witness statements suggesting the latter may have been tampered with. Mia. It had to be Mia, or one of the catering staff. I didn't see anything. I lied, the familiar pattern of protecting my family asserting itself despite everything. The detective didn't push. I'll leave my card. If you remember anything else or change your mind about making a statement, you can reach me directly. He placed a business card on my bedside table, nodded respectfully, and left. That night, as nurses prepped me for surgery, I was overwhelmed by memories of similar incidents throughout my childhood. The time Kyle convinced me to climb the oak tree in our backyard, then shook the branch until I fell and broke my arm. My parents had scolded me for showing off and being careless. Or the camping trip where Kyle accidentally pushed me into a ravine, resulting in a concussion. Dad had lectured me about proper hiking techniques while driving me to the emergency room. The pattern was so clear now, viewed through adult eyes and the lens of my current situation. How had I never seen it before? The surgery lasted 6 hours. When I awoke the following afternoon, groggy and in pain, my family was finally there. But rather than offering comfort, they brought tension and barely concealed accusations. The doctors say you'll need extensive rehabilitation, my father said without preamble. At least 6 months, possibly longer. Your mother and I will need to convert the downstairs study into a bedroom. It's extremely inconvenient. I'm sorry, I responded automatically, the ingrained apology for existing spilling from my lips before I could stop it. You should be, my mother sniffed. Kyle's birthday was completely ruined. Most of the guests left when the ambulance arrived. All that money and planning wasted. Kyle hung back his expression, carefully crafted for the medical staff coming in and out. Concerned brother worried about his injured sibling. But when the nurse stepped out, he leaned closer. The police were asking questions about the latter, he said quietly. You didn't say anything stupid, did you? Before I could respond, my father interjected. Of course he didn't, because there's nothing to say. It was an accident. Drew has always been accident-prone. The detective seemed to think otherwise, I said cautiously. My father's face reddened. Listen to me very carefully. We are not having some ridiculous police investigation disrupt this family over your clumsiness. You need to tell them it was an accident, nothing more. But what if it wasn't? I asked, surprising myself with the question. The atmosphere in the room shifted, instantly becoming electric with tension. What exactly are you implying? My father demanded. Before I could answer, Dr. Patel entered with her team. I need to discuss the surgery results and recovery plan with Mr. Anderson, she said firmly. I'll have to ask family members to step out momentarily. As they filed out, Kyle lingering behind, he whispered, Remember who pays for your health insurance. Think very carefully about what you say to the police. Dr. Patel explained that while the surgery had been successful in stabilizing my spine, the road to recovery would be long and uncertain. We're transferring you to Riverside Rehabilitation Center tomorrow, she explained. They specialize in spinal cord injuries and have the best physical therapy program in the state. And how long will he be there? My mother asked, when they were allowed back in, concerned only with the logistics and financial implications. A minimum of 6 months, Dr. Patel replied, possibly longer depending on his progress. My parents exchanged glances loaded with annoyance. That seems excessive, my father stated. Surely he could do outpatient therapy. With this type of injury, intensive inpatient rehabilitation provides the best chance for meaningful recovery. Dr. Patel explained patiently. Your son has a long, challenging road ahead. He'll need all the support he can get. The irony of her words wasn't lost on me as I watched my family's expressions. Support was the last thing I could expect from them. Later that evening, Nurse Jackson, a broad-shouldered man with gentle hands, helped me prepare for my first night post-surgery. Your cousin dropped this off, he mentioned, casually placing a small envelope on my tray table. The young girl. Said she wasn't allowed to visit but wanted you to have it. Inside was a handmade card from Mia. With a simple message, I showed the police lady the video. "I'm sorry about your legs. Love, Mia." Video. What video? The question kept me awake long after the pain medication should have pulled me under. The next morning, Detective Matthews returned. "Your cousin Mia provided us with some evidence," he said, without preamble. "A video she took while playing around with her new phone. It shows your brother tampering with the ladder shortly before your fall." My world tilted on its axis. Despite my suspicions, having confirmation was staggering. "She shouldn't have gotten involved," I said weakly. Mr. Anderson, Detective Matthews, leaned forward, his expression serious. "That video, combined with the medical evidence and witness statements from catering staff about your family's reaction, gives us grounds to charge your brother with assault. But we need your cooperation." My thoughts swirled chaotically. Years of conditioning fought against the harsh reality of my situation. "I need time to think," I finally said. "Take the time you need," he replied, standing to leave. "But know that your cousin was brave enough to tell the truth. She's worried about you, and from what I've seen of your family's behavior, she has good reason to be." The Riverside Rehabilitation Center became my home for the next several months. My private room overlooked a small garden, though initially I took little pleasure in the view. The first weeks were a blur of pain, frustration, and the crushing realization that my life had irrevocably changed. My roommate Marcus, a former college basketball player who had sustained a similar injury in a car accident, became an unexpected source of strength. "First rule of Spinal Club," he told me on my third day when he found me staring blankly at the ceiling. "It's okay to grieve for what you lost, but you can't stay there." The physical therapy sessions were brutal. Learning to simply sit up without assistance left me drenched in sweat and fighting tears. My therapist Anthony pushed me relentlessly. "Your injury is incomplete," he reminded me daily. "That means there's hope. But hope without work is just wishful thinking." 2 weeks into my stay, I realized something that should have been immediately obvious. My family hadn't visited once. No calls, no texts, not even flowers. The nurses exchanged knowing glances when I mentioned it, but said nothing. It was Lisa, the social worker, who had followed my case from the hospital, who finally addressed the elephant in the room. "I've been trying to reach your parents regarding your insurance coverage and rehabilitation plan," she said during one of our regular sessions. "They've been unresponsive." I laughed bitterly. "Let me guess. They're busy with important things." Lisa's expression was compassionate but direct. "Drew, I've been doing this job for 15 years. I've seen every type of family dynamic you can imagine. What I observed in the hospital with your family raises serious concerns." Over the next few weeks, our sessions shifted from practical matters of recovery to deeper issues of family dynamics. For the first time, I spoke openly about the pattern of favoritism, gaslighting, and emotional abuse that had defined my childhood. Lisa introduced terms like golden child and scapegoat that crystallized my experiences in ways I'd never been able to articulate. Meanwhile, my body fought its own battle. The breakthrough came nearly a month into rehabilitation. During a particularly grueling therapy session, Anthony was manipulating my right leg through a range of exercises when I felt it. The faintest twitch of my big toe in response to his command. "Did you see that?" I gasped, tears springing to my eyes. Anthony's professional demeanor cracked into a wide grin. "I sure did. That's what we've been waiting for." Progress was agonizingly slow after that initial breakthrough. Toe movement led to ankle flexion, then minimal knee control. Each tiny victory was celebrated by the rehab staff and my growing circle of friends at the center. Each night I collapsed into bed, exhausted but with a growing sense of possibility. It was during this period that Detective Matthews came to update me on the investigation. "The district attorney has enough evidence to proceed with charges against your brother," he explained. "Reckless endangerment at minimum, possibly aggravated assault. But they want your testimony to strengthen the case." I had been thinking about this moment for weeks, working through it with Lisa and in my support group sessions. "I'll testify," I said firmly. "It's time for the truth." The next day brought the confrontation I'd been dreading. My parents finally appeared at Riverside, their expressions thunderous. They barely acknowledged my progress, instead launching immediately into their agenda. "We need you to sign this," my father said, placing a document on my tray table. It was a statement recanting any suggestion that Kyle had tampered with the ladder, claiming full responsibility for the accident. "No," I said simply. The word hung in the air between us. My father's face reddened dangerously. "What did you say?" I said. "No." My voice grew stronger. "I'm not covering for Kyle anymore. Not after this. After everything we've done for you," my mother hissed, her carefully maintained appearance cracking to reveal the fury beneath. "Your health insurance, this expensive facility, all of it comes from us. Are you really going to repay our generosity by destroying your brother's future?" "Generosity?" I echoed in disbelief. "You haven't visited once in 6 weeks. You haven't even called to see if I'm alive. We've been dealing with the mess you created," my father snapped. "Kyle's law firm put him on leave pending the investigation. Do you have any idea what this is doing to our family's reputation?" It was as if a lifetime of fog had suddenly cleared. I saw them, really saw them, perhaps for the first time. "Get out," I said quietly. "Excuse me," my mother gasped. "Get out," I repeated more firmly. "I don't want you here if you can't even ask how I'm doing or acknowledge what Kyle did." My father leaned in menacingly. "You listen to me, you ungrateful little shit. If you go through with this, you're dead to us. No more insurance, no more financial support, nothing. You'll be completely on your own." I met his gaze steadily. "I already am." They stormed out, my mother declaring dramatically that she no longer had a second son. The relief that flooded through me in their wake was unexpected and profound. I had finally broken free of their control, though it had taken nearly losing my ability to walk to find the strength to do it. The following weeks brought surprising developments. Mia's parents, my aunt and uncle, contacted me to offer their support, horrified by what their daughter's video had revealed, and my parents' subsequent behavior. My boss from the architectural firm visited, assuring me my job would be waiting whenever I was ready to return, even if only part-time initially. Most surprisingly, Marcus's sister Allison, an occupational therapist at the center, began spending her breaks in my room, bringing me books and engaging me in conversations that had nothing to do with my injury. Her warmth and genuine interest were balm to my wounded spirit. By month 4, I was using a walker for short distances. My case against Kyle proceeded with the district attorney confident in a conviction based on the video evidence and multiple witness statements. My parents made one final attempt at coercion, sending their lawyer with threats of cutting me out of their will and selling my childhood belongings. I signed the documents without hesitation, feeling another link in the chain of obligation break free. "You know what the hardest part of recovery is?" Marcus asked me one evening as we both worked on strengthening exercises. "It's not the physical pain. It's letting go of who you thought you'd be and accepting who you are now." His words resonated deeply. I wasn't just recovering from a spinal injury. I was recovering from a lifetime of emotional abuse and manipulated self-perception. In many ways, my inability to walk had finally enabled me to stand up for myself. The courtroom was smaller than I had imagined. I entered using my walker, the familiar faces of the rehabilitation staff who had come to support me, providing courage. Kyle sat at the defense table looking smaller, somehow less intimidating than he had my entire life. My parents were seated directly behind him, refusing to make eye contact as I made my way to the witness stand. Judge Richardson, a stern woman with penetrating eyes, reviewed the evidence methodically. My testimony was clear and factual, describing not just the day of the incident, but the pattern of behavior that had led to it. When Mia took the stand, her voice trembled, but her words were unwavering as she described filming Kyle loosening the ladder rungs because she thought he was fixing it, and her confusion when I fell. The verdict came swiftly. Kyle was sentenced to 2 years probation and ordered to pay restitution covering my medical expenses not covered by insurance. As the courtroom emptied, my parents brushed past me without a word, their silent rejection no longer holding the power to wound me. 6 months later, I returned to work part-time using a cane but proudly mobile under my own power. With the settlement money from Kyle, I purchased a small, accessible apartment near the rehabilitation center where I continued outpatient therapy. Marcus helped me move in our friendship, having survived his discharge and returned to teaching adapted physical education. The unexpected letter from Mia's parents arrived just before Thanksgiving, inviting me to spend the holiday with them rather than alone. Family should be there for each other. My aunt wrote, "And you are family to us." My recovery continued to progress, though doctors confirmed I would likely always have some limitations. The support group I started for survivors of family abuse grew steadily, meeting weekly in the community room of my apartment building. Each session reinforced what I had learned through my ordeal, that sometimes the people who should love us the most are the ones who hurt us the deepest, and that healing often requires walking away. Allison and I began dating officially after my discharge, our relationship developing naturally from friendship into something deeper. She understood my journey in ways few others could, recognizing both my physical limitations and the emotional scars that were still healing. The last time I saw Kyle was at the courthouse when he delivered the restitution check accompanied by his lawyer. He looked uncomfortable, diminished without our parents there to inflate his importance. "I never meant for it to go this far," he offered awkwardly, the closest thing to an apology I would ever receive. "I know," I replied simply. And I did. The pattern had been established so early, the dynamic so entrenched, that neither of us had known how to exist outside of it. The difference was that I had finally broken free. My new life is built on authenticity, rather than approval-seeking. Each step I take with my cane reminds me of how far I've come. Not just physically, but emotionally. The family I've chosen, Marcus, Allison, my support group members Mia and her parents, provide the genuine care and respect my biological family never could. Sometimes the greatest gift can come disguised as the worst tragedy. For me, it took losing my mobility to find my voice. It took being physically knocked down to finally stand up for myself. Have you ever had to choose between family loyalty and your own well-being? Share your experience in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit like and subscribe to support others who are finding the courage to break free from toxic relationships. Remember, sometimes it takes losing everything to discover what you really need. Thank you for listening to my journey, and I wish you strength if you're walking a similar path.